Welcome to Heart Speak Podcast, episode 69, Stepping Beyond Self-Doubt. Well, here we are at the waxing gibbous moon, which is the moon phase just before the full moon. I hope you're enjoying this journey. Do share with us on maybe the Facebook group, The Great Mother Calling, or on YouTube, wherever you can comment. I'd love to see how you're doing, and if this is helping you to really focus on a new rhythm that you may not have focused on before. I've become so much more aware of watching the moon phases. I looked out last night and it was like, aha, there we go. We've just in the first quarter and we're just moving into this waxing gibbous moon just before the full moon. I'm sure many of you have noticed a full moon, but maybe haven't really appreciated these different phases. So what is this phase? This is the phase just before the full moon, as I'm saying, and it's the phase of I'm about to blossom. I'm about to get there, but I wonder if any of you have experienced that, those self-doubts, those self-criticisms. I'm sure nobody out there has ever doubted themselves. And one of the biggest things is comparisons, isn't it? Maybe that's me. But many a time we're compared with someone, or we compare ourselves with someone. I'm not as good as them, they were better, my sister was better. Maybe this happens at school. It's not meant badly, but you're not like your sister or your brother or whoever it is. Or I would have expected more since you've come from a family who do this. Does that resonate with any of you, this sense of comparison? And even if we don't, it isn't spoken to us, it's in our minds. And I probably am speaking to anybody who has Virgo in their chart. I have my ascendant is Virgo. It's really helpful to know your natal chart, your astrology. And anybody who has any Virgo, there's this sense of always comparing ourselves or looking at other people or overthinking situations. Again, don't think anybody out there is doing that, but there's this tendency to overthink. And this is very much this phase. And at this moment in time where, in many ways, everybody's being put on a lockdown or not being able to do their work fully, or maybe you are, but it's making us think of the future. And will I have a job? Will I have money? Will I be enough? And these doubts can go round and round in our heads. Of course, they can lead to greater anxieties where we really can't get out of our heads at all. And that would be a great time to do the rooting exercise that I've shared with you, getting out into the garden, putting your hands on earth, making bread, making food, anything that takes you into your body and out of your head. Sometimes it involves me putting music on and dancing, or I sometimes listen to an audio book where I can just lose myself in a detective story, anything that doesn't involve thinking. I'm sure some of you have different ways of doing that. Because if you have got an active mind, it's often difficult to switch it off. And sometimes if you actually follow that active mind, you'll find that a lot of what it says isn't very kind to you. It's chatter, chatter, chatter. Well, I didn't expect any better of you. Of course, you're not going to do this. You don't deserve this. So I'm wondering if you follow your mind and just notice that there are certain times where the thinking is not particularly helpful. And as I say, sometimes you're watching, maybe on Instagram, or Facebook, or Twitter, you're watching what other people are doing and thinking, oh, I wish I was doing that. That's what fascinates me about, especially Instagram, where you're looking at pictures and I'm looking at somebody else and I'm thinking, what is that really doing to my psyche? Am I saying, wow, isn't that wonderful that they're having such a fabulous time? But does that mean that I'm comparing myself? Why do we need to put our pictures up? What's going on? And this need to put pictures or to express ourselves on social media has become so explosive that we also know there are a lot of people who have more sense of not good enough or feeling bullied or feeling that they are shamed. So I'm putting all of that in just to ask you, I hope none of that's happening to you, but to ask yourself, where do I feel ashamed of myself? Where do I feel that I have to hide? Because you imagine that here you are, you're this little flower that's pushed its way up. You've strengthened your stem. You're more determined than ever to achieve what you want to achieve. And you're about to blossom, but then you bow your head. And where are you bowing your head? Where are you staying small? What causes you to stay small? What causes you to hide your brilliance? Now, accepting that everybody on this planet has a unique piece of the jigsaw, all right, follow me with that. Nobody is like anybody else. It seems ironic that we should say, oh, my piece of the jigsaw isn't good enough. But that's what happens. It happens in our school system where we're graded. It happens in college. It happens in so many areas of life where we're graded. We're graded against other people, other people's expectations. Does that make sense? So what we're looking at is what expectations do you have of yourself and what expectations have been put upon you. And boy, there are lots of those. And what I want to say is that when it comes to other people's expectations, you can never meet them. That's a simple way of me saying, let go of other people's expectations, because you will never, ever be able to meet them, whether it's a good enough daughter, a good enough son, a good enough father, a good enough wife, a good enough mother. Let go. But sometimes we don't actually even know that those expectations are on us, do we? Because as children, instead of reading the appropriate information that's given to us, so here we are, we're a little child, we come onto this earth, and this really involves our ability to adapt to the situation we find ourselves in. All right, so I know you've heard me speak about the root chakra. This root chakra, 9 feet, 3 meters under your feet. Then we got cut off from that. Now, prior to getting cut off from our root chakra, as I say, you were rooted into Mother Earth, especially by your mother, who weaned you from her breast or weaned you from her hugs and cuddles. And by the age of 5, you were rooted fully into Mother Earth in order to live your unique life. Oh, I forgot to tell you, that's the perfect scenario. But that doesn't happen. So here we are, we got cut off from that root chakra, that sense of uniqueness, that sense of perfection, that I am already perfect in my energetic field. And all I'm here to do is express that perfection here on earth. So simple. You imagine that story before we came here onto the planet. Okay, go down there. Here's the perfect plan. Express it. Go home. How's that for a plan? Well, of course, we forgot the lid. We forgot the plan. We forgot the map. But we also are coming into a world and parenting and family who don't feel perfect themselves. Okay? So this is many thousands of years of people having drummed into them they're not perfect. And of course, all the major religions of today, and we could say most of those have been around 2,000 years plus, they all carry a stigma of the solar plexus. So the solar plexus is the place where we say, I'm okay. But each of those religions have taken the solar plexus, that emotional sense of okayness, and turn it around, and you probably can recognize the different religions. You either become a martyr, as in Protestants. I have to martyr myself in order to be okay. I'm fine, I'm okay. Don't worry about me. I don't mind if I die on the job. Guilt trippers, dear Catholics. Oh my God, I feel so guilty. I didn't do what I should have done. Victim, Judaism. No, but I'm never good enough. Everything's against me. And then there's combinations of all the same. You understand? All of the major traditions, religions, did not start out this way, but they've ended this way, where the leaders or the initiators, the innovators of these religions would turn in their graves if they knew what was going on here. And why do we do that? Why has this happened? Again, it's power. So the solar plexus is about personal power. If I feel okay about myself, I don't need a leader. I don't need a priest. I don't need someone to tell me I'm okay. I'm okay. Thank you very much. I'm okay. I'm celebrating myself. I'm proud of the bloom that is about to happen. But if I've been under the remit of someone who needs me to stay small, then I'm going to stay there. And that happens in families. So if someone is not rooted, as I'm mentioning from thousands of years back when we used to do this, you are a unique individual. Nobody can make you more than you are. You are already perfect. Imagine that. That virgin energy that I talk about in my book. The virgin means to be perfect unto yourself without the need for someone else to make you whole. Wouldn't that be wonderful? Anyway, that doesn't happen. So because we got cut off from the root chakra, and I'm sorry to be jumping around a little bit here, but we got cut off from the root chakra. As a baby or a child, we learned, first of all, at the base chakra, that there are rules we have to follow to fit into this family, to feel that we belong. And on top of that, we learned through our psychic and our emotional solar plexus that we also have to use those psychic senses in order to know what we need to do in order to be liked. So the base chakra here has the rules. This is what you need, the shoulds. And the solar plexus has these are the things, the ways you can please me. And they may, all of them, be very subtle. In other words, in a culture, there may be rules that nobody tells you about. You just have to learn them on a subtle level. I know that's true when I'm in Britain. I know it's true in Japan. Very many rules. And then there's this sensitivity at the solar plexus. So when countries, and again, I think Britain is very sensitive in the solar plexus, and you can see people reading other people of how should I be in order to not be too much. And that's really the solar plexus. How can I be liked? It's about pleasing. How can I please other people? How can I make other people happy? So just to clarify, sorry if I'm jumping around a bit here, but base chakra is how do I fit in? How can I stay secure? How can I feel that I belong? Not about emotion, if I may say, more about safety. Solar plexus, more about emotional satisfaction, emotional safety. So the more dysfunctional your family is, where maybe there might have been alcoholism, or there may have been drugs, or there may be absenteeism or moodiness, the more a child will use their solar plexus to work out, what do I need to do in order to keep my dad, mum happy? It may be an emotional security, or it even may be a base chakra security. If I'm not a good girl and responsible, then maybe our family is going to fall apart, and I therefore will have no food, etc. Does that make sense? So the base chakra and solar plexus in particular are hypersensitive when we're children. Now you go back to my initial sense of security. You imagine your mother and father being so secure in themselves, so confident in themselves, they can say, "Hey, wonderful child, I'm so glad you've appeared. Let's help secure you into this earth. Hey, wonderful child." In other words, they don't need you to be anything for them. Their purpose is just to be there for you. Wow. Now that's not about indulgence. That is, how do I hold you to your soul's path? How do I make sure that we give this child the security, the confidence in order to walk their soul's path? I'm sure all of you had that in your childhood. But if in any way your parents did not feel secure, did not feel confident, did not feel loved enough, or whatever, courageous enough, then there would have been a tendency for you as a child to either shut down your uniqueness or start to parent them. So a codependent experience. So let me just use a scenario. Let's say you were a boy and your father never really achieved, or he kept telling you that. So every time he would go to a job, he would find fault with the job, and maybe it would be made redundant, or he was always passed over by somebody who was cleverer than he was, and he had a grudge. You, particularly as a boy, because your father was a role model, you would have kept lower than him. You would have said, I mustn't embarrass my father by being more successful, so I've always got to keep my head down and never shine, because that's going to be a problem for him. Does that make sense? Now, on another level, there may have been that your mother may have stayed at home with the children, may have been someone who stayed at home, and she felt angry that she wasn't allowed to have a career. I mean, I'm using scenarios that I've been told. And she wants you to go out and be that person that she never was, or maybe a father can be doing that. So here you are trying to fulfill their destiny that they never achieved. But because it's not them achieving it, you're never going to be good enough. Does this make sense? So where have you adapted yourself to your family? I have heard so many stories. That's why I'm so rich in these stories. Children who have felt that they had to actually give up schooling because their mother needed them at home. And they may have just truanted, or they may have failed, or they just said, well, I'm not interested in going away to college. Really, they were really saying is, I need to stay near my mother. Now, all of this, if I'm honest, is also what your soul chose. So it's not wrong. You chose this scenario. But when we come to this phase of the moon, this might be the phase of the moon this month where you say, I'm not keeping myself small anymore. I'm not denying myself my uniqueness anymore. That's what I want to keep coming back to. Where are you holding yourself down? Where are you tethered like a balloon, a hot air balloon? Where are you tethered to other people's expectations? Where are you tethered in a way that you think, well, if I free myself up, what's going to happen to them? Can I allow myself to do such a thing? And therefore, your self-doubt, your self-criticism may have nothing to do with you. It may be a very deep message about, I cannot succeed because if I do, someone else is going to die. Someone else is going to suffer. Am I speaking to some of you? And if you resonate with this at all, please, I'm asking you to really look deep inside, not look down, but look deep inside you and say, where am I keeping myself small and for what reason? I must never be better than. Now, we've all got stories like this. I remember one wonderful lady who came to one of my teachings, and she was probably in her 50s then. And she said, this is the first time I've ever come to learn something and get a certificate at the end. Because she said, when I was 12, I was first in my class. And when I told my father, he said, well, there's only one way to go now, and that's under being first. And she said, I never took another exam after that. Instead of celebrating her, he put her down. Now, again, I hope you've not been in these situations, but I hear it so commonly. Someone say, oh, no big deal. Who do you think you are? Why are you laughing? Why are you so pleased about that? I'm pleased because I need you to celebrate me. So again, one of the things I want to ask you, can you celebrate others? Really? And can you receive compliments? Because if you're always batting away compliments, maybe you have a fear of fully being here on this planet. Maybe you have a fear of celebrating yourself. Maybe you have a fear of staying here on this planet, being big enough, being seen. And this really takes me on to my other point here, is where are you waiting for people to approve of you that can never approve of you? So maybe you'll say, well, I need more approval. Well, if you don't receive compliments, it's really hard to feel good enough about yourself. And then I might have Aquarians out there. It doesn't have to be Aquarian sun, but you may have an Aquarian energy that's waiting for someone to understand you. And I have to say to you, nobody's ever going to understand you. Get over it in the nicest way. Because if we're always waiting for people to understand us and then we'll move forward, it's not going to happen. So what is it that keeps you down? You see, if you're not understood, maybe you tell yourself there's something crazy about me, or I'm a bad person, or I shouldn't be thinking this way. All of those are just stories. They're just stories to say, this is not the truth at this time. So here we are at this waxing gibbous moon. We're looking to how do we hold our heads up high? Where do we need to cut the ties? And I would like to just finish this meditation with another cutting ties. I know I've done this previously in other podcasts, but this is cutting a tie from someone that has expectations of you. Now, they may not expectations to be successful. They may be expectations to keep you small. They may be expectations just to keep them safe. So somebody who you are trying to please, trying to appease, trying to keep your head down, not to shine, or maybe you're scared that if you go too far, something bad's going to happen to them. That might have been a story you carry. I hope you can come with me on this journey. I'm sure you can. But if you recognize that there are people in our lives, it might be friends, it may be family, it may be parents, siblings, that or even your children, you may be saying, I'm keeping myself at this level for them. And what we're looking at is, hey, I'm unique, you're unique. My keeping myself small does not serve you. That's what I'm asking you to look at. In other words, it's almost like an arrogance for us to think that us behaving in a certain way is actually going to help someone else. All right? Us behaving and fully in our embodiment is the best help we can give someone else. Be the role model of full embodiment, full confidence. Staying small will never, ever serve anybody else. And I think that's a message at this time anyway, with the lockdown, the virus around. It's almost like, be careful of everybody else, or don't spit on anybody else. And maybe that's almost the metaphor, that my energy cannot affect anybody in that way. The more full I am of myself, the less, almost what I do is I release everybody else to be themselves. And that's true, I think, especially of our children, of our partners, maybe our parents as well, but let other people be themselves. We do that by releasing the ties that we think we're helping someone else, but in truth, we are putting our expectations on them. Now, I've given you lots of different scenarios there, but this exercise we're about to do is to cut the ties with someone where we're either putting expectations on them or they're putting them on us, or we perceive they are. Okay? So again, only do this meditation if you have the space and you can close your eyes. And as usual, take a few good deep breaths, short breath in, long breath out down through your body. And in particular, take those thoughts from your mind, those self-doubts, and just bring them all down through your body into the ground. And this is for many of you. Take all those thoughts again down into the earth, saying, maybe nothing that I believe is true. Maybe everything is not as I think it is, as I think it is. Whether you've got your feet on the ground or whether you're lying down, that's fine. Take your awareness to your heart chakra, center of your chest. Through your heart chakra, see yourself in a meadow or a field. I like to think of flowers being in the meadow around your feet, soft wind on your face. Listen to the birds, perhaps. Draw a circle around you on the ground. This is your sacred space. Draw another circle on the ground, meeting yours like a figure of 8, just touching on the edges. We're going to invite someone into that circle. They cannot come into yours, you cannot come into theirs. And invite someone in who either you have expectations of them or you perceive they have expectations of you. They may be still alive or they may have passed over. And we're just going to imagine that there is one tie that needs cutting between your solar plexus, their solar plexus. Now, if you want to play with this later on, you may see there are other ties to different chakras. But you can also see there's a loving tie between the heart. It doesn't have to be a rope, it can just be energy that runs between your hearts. Okay, we're going to go to the solar plexus one because this is the place where we please each other. This is the place of expectations. And what I first want you to appreciate is that you want to cut this tie, not the heart one, but the solar plexus one. And you're cutting it because you realize that having expectations of each other is holding you both back from fulfilling your own soul destiny. And you may well be able to speak to this individual and say, I'm sorry I expected this of you. I only wanted to make you happy, or I'm sorry that I put all my ideas onto you. I'm ready to let you go. And likewise, they may need to say something to you now. And that conversation can continue some later on. But now, if you are ready, see what the cord between you is made from, the tie, the bond. This is of the solar plexus. And if you are ready to cut it, find something to cut it with and cut it. And then tie off the ends or make sure the ends can't reconnect. And say to them, I set you free. I release you to be all that you are. Maybe they say something like that to you. And you say, I love you. I love you as a soul. I love you. It doesn't matter, but there's not the stickiness anymore. And ask them to leave. And then finally, you let the circles dissolve. And you bring your awareness back to the room where you are. And when you're ready to open your eyes, and you can repeat that exercise as many times as you like, maybe even with the same person, just to check that that cutting has worked. And you may even bring into the other circle a part of you, the you that has expectations of yourself. Sometimes we have expectations of our spontaneous self or a little child, and we said, don't be like that, that isn't good. Maybe we need to set free that part of ourselves and then integrate it into ourselves and say, sorry, I've been judging you, I've had expectations of you, now be yourself. That's taking it a little deeper, but I hope you'll do that. So bring into the other circle parts of you that need to be released to be free and to express themselves fully. And until the full moon, which will be in a few days, I love and bless you all. Do share with me, make sure that you are enjoying this phase. Do spread the word, I would like to say, because the more we connect to the moon, more connect to the earth, actually we create a far better future for ourselves and for humanity. So with love and blessings to you all, take care. See you next time.
Thanks for listening to the HeartSpeak podcast with Dr. Christine Page. Please check out all HeartSpeak episodes in the podcast archive section on www.christinepage.com. HeartSpeak is also available on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Stitcher Radio, and now playing on iHeartRadio. You can also watch the archive podcasts on YouTube. Connect with Christine on Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook, including her newest Facebook group, The Great Mother Calling. Do share with family, friends, colleagues. Join us next time for another edition of HeartSpeak.